Today we're going into Outdoorsy, which is a ride-sharing marketplace for RVs. So let's go in and learn their story. Now the other thing I want to talk about is your ad agency background and how it parlays into all of this. So what was your ad agency background? What were you doing before this?
My career started off really in direct and digital marketing. Like, I'm gonna totally age myself here, but I started my career back in the day of DM packs. Like hardcore, who are you targeting? Because you've got to mail this package to somebody's house. What is the offer and the reason for opening and for purchase? And then how do you develop creative that really sings a consumer insight and catches the person or the customer's emotions in just the right way that they'll actually act on the campaign. So I spent most of my career, I started at the bottom, just like a lot of people, worked at the bottom and learned everything that I needed to through working for some pretty big advertising agencies. So I worked in WPP for over a decade, and I worked for Ogilvy One and Wonderman and JWT, and I worked... Big ad agencies. Yeah, they were big agencies, and it was such a great environment in place, because if you imagine, you've got these huge buildings with absolutely every single piece of the puzzle to make great advertising and creative work. You've got your art directors and copywriters, you've got planners and strategists, you've got brand strategists, you've got an analytics department, you've got the whole digital dev and tech shop right there. So, those are the kinds of environments where you can build out multi-million-dollar campaigns and take them to market. You've got media buying, I mean, everything is there. So I was really fortunate that that was my whole career before starting Outdoorsy. And if I think about it now, again, hindsight's 2020, but when I look back, I'm like, I couldn't have asked for anything better, because I really was well trained in direct and digital marketing, getting to consumer and really finding what are the consumer insights that lead to the multiple campaign strategies that all have different copy, different creative, different insights that drive the action that you need. So that was, that was a pretty great environment for me before starting Outdoorsy.
Got it. And so for the beginning entrepreneurs to understand, I mean, what is an example of great copy? What do you define as great, or great creatives actually? What do you define as that?
Well, great creative starts with nailing your consumer insight. So when I think about Outdoorsy, for example, I can't just talk to 13 million Americans that own an RV and expect that I'm going to be able to find what the pain point is that really means something to them, where they're going to go, yeah, that's me, that's just like me. So great creative starts with that, identifying what that killer insight is, and then building your copy and your messaging and your visuals that support it, and the offer that you provide, all aligned back to that individual consumer insight. So for us right now in Outdoorsy, for owners, we're really developing and seeing that there's three completely different mindsets for an owner. There's the guy or the girl today that really doesn't want to work a 9-to-5 job. They don't want a boss, they don't want to work 9 to 5, they don't want to go to an office. And we can develop creative that's like, be your own boss. You have an RV, or there's people with RVs. You don't even have to have these things in your own driveway, but you can manage them. Put them on Outdoorsy, just do the key exchange, and start making a full income this summer. Then we've got different mindsets and types, family types, where they're like, they bought this RV, it's really important to them in their life because it's where their family goes on their holiday adventures, and they don't want to give it up, but they're realizing it's really expensive and they've got to cover all of those costs. So how we message and we market to them is much more about making back that money, realizing the full potential of your investment, plus also getting to use the vehicle whenever you want, and you're in full control. You can pick your renters and do what you want. And then there's a third type that's just like straight up investment minded, where we just, basically give them the math and hammer home the points. Like, you bought it for this, it costs you this to maintain, it's a depreciating asset. All you have to do is just list it here, rent it out a few times, your return is, 8 to 10%, and the story is more math oriented. So all of those are different routes for developing creative that really connects with somebody personally.
Got it. So it's not as easy as just throwing up a Facebook ad or a Google AdWords. You have to actually do the foundational work, right?
100%. And I mean, imagine in today's world, it's even more difficult because we have ad fatigue. So we've got to get like 35 to 45 different ad creatives. And if you think about that times the 8 to 10 different types of customers that you're trying to reach, you're already looking at maintaining a couple hundred ads that have to have completely different headlines, subheads, call to actions, landing pages, offers, and visuals. That's a lot to manage. So it really does help you hone in on what you think is, what assets do you have? How can you develop develop them cost effectively? How can you get them in market and trial out if those are the customers that actually pay off the greatest amount of not just top line revenue, but profitability as well?
I like talking about routines all the time. You know, I do it here, I do it on podcasts as well. So what are your routines, habits? What makes you successful? What makes Jen the machine that she is?
Hard work all the time, 7 days a week. But what I do try to do is focus really on my list and my priorities, and I'm getting better and better. So at the beginning, when we first started the company, it was really hard to not get distracted by shiny objects. But this year, I think I've done a really great job in maintaining my routine more seriously. So I always make sure before I go to bed that I've set up my day for the next day. So I know what I'm locked into for meetings and for tasks. I try and get up really early. So I wake up, I try to get up around 6:30. And I make sure that's a really important hour for me because I can meditate and just like calmly relax and focus myself on what I want to achieve that day. Plus also it gives me a couple of hours head start ahead of everybody else that I work with and certainly a lot of our partners. And I can knock off so many of the emails and tasks and admin and follow up that needs to get done, and it's like gone out of the day. What that also allows me to do, aside from getting a good amount of workout, is it allows me to turn off my email at certain parts of the day. So because otherwise those notifications that just constantly come up in all the channels that we sit across are impossible. So I turn off Slack, I turn off I shut down Gmail quite literally, and I focus on what I need to do, whether it's like building out our content strategy for the quarter or focusing on detailing programs for some of our partners or user acquisition campaign strategies, but it really allows me to open up a clean sheet of paper and like focus on defining what's the program, what are the objectives, how's that campaign going to work, and working with a team member or working by myself. So, and then at the end of day, I mean, I do always work a little bit later than everybody else because what that allows me to do is at the end of the day, do the same routine that I have in the morning, and that's shut down things properly, get myself organized, refocus on what the priorities are, remind myself that shiny objects cannot get in the path every day, that I've got to hit a couple of the big goals, and hitting big goals takes time.
Yeah. Key takeaway number 5, I mean, every single successful person that I know, not just entrepreneurs, has good habits. And I could just tell who's successful and who isn't just by looking at their habits, and this is why I ask the questions all the time. So Jen has a great template that you can follow. Everybody I know too, 99% of entrepreneurs wake up early, and that's what you need to do to get ahead, because I call that my everybody shut up time, and you know, you can get to work and do stuff that moves the needle. Jen, one final question for you. So how do you go about learning? How do you go about getting better? Not just around marketing, but just, you know, as a human being or entrepreneur?
Also a really big question for the world today, because there's just so much information to digest, and also even as brands, we're expected to pump so much content into the world. So it's a really difficult one to solve. For me personally, what I find works is going in and out of waves of period of time. So I'll go during a period of like maybe 4 to 6 weeks where I'm just reading and consuming absolutely everything I can, and I'm just like taking a look at what are new campaigns, what are new strategies, what are business publications saying, what are publications focused on marketplaces saying, consulting friends of mine, and just trying to absorb as much as I can. But then I'll also come out of that period of time where I try to not take in a lot of information and focus a little bit more on what did everything I learned sort of sift through, and how do I apply that to my business, and looking at all of the different layers of business, right? Because we are consuming so much information that I want to think about, okay, you know, what's my best strategy and thinking related to the business level, to the organizational structural level, to the channels that we're focusing in on, to the individual campaign creative, to the numbers that we have to hit. And I try and let what I learned in the last 4 to 6 weeks infiltrate the planning and improving programs in that regard. And then I go back into consuming and taking in a lot of information. But I definitely make sure to stop and take a breath and not constantly be in a state of just reading and consuming information, because a lot of it is duplicative. Sometimes it's wrong. You know, people are under the gun to just like get out a lot of information. You've got to be as critical in your thinking as you are curious in learning.
Love that. And then, so you talked about a couple of things that you go to, maybe 3 resources that you turn to time and time again to get better. What were those?
Yeah, I mean, again, it does also depend on what problem I'm trying to tackle. So
let's say marketing.
So marketing, okay. So in marketing specifically, so I read Neil Patel constantly. I think he does a great job of breaking down the entire digital marketing spectrum, focusing particularly in SEO. And so I read his daily email and a lot of the content that he writes. I also read as much as I can from Guy Kawasaki. He recently invested in Canva, and I really love how they're building tools that are based around visuals and ways that non-professional designers can use these tools every day. So I read a lot of stuff from Guy Kawasaki. I also listen to a podcast from Near Me. So Near Me is content that's focused specifically on marketplaces. Obviously, we started a marketplace. So I try and read from industry leaders in like the 3 areas of marketing that are most pertinent to me.
Got it. Okay. Well, Jen, this has been fantastic. What's the best way for people to find you online?
Yeah, I love collaborating with people, and I love it when people reach out. So best way to find me online is straight up send me an email to jen@outdoorsy.com. And I'm a little old school. You can find me on Facebook and LinkedIn and running Instagram.
Awesome. So Outdoorsy, make sure you check it out. If you want to make some more money on the side, get an RV. I certainly want to buy one now. People in my office have been talking about it. Check it out, go to outdoorsy.com, and we'll see you in the next episode. So to recap today's interview and the shoot overall with Outdoorsy, there's a lot of different things we learned, right? And if you look at the other episodes that we've done so far with companies such as Snack Nation, where Andy Mackinson burned $150,000 or went into $150K in debt. You look at Jen burning all the ships to start this business. There's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to starting a business. So that's one of the key things that I learned from doing a lot of these interviews over and over. There's always that one inflection point where it's just like, are we gonna do this or are we not gonna do this? And I wouldn't even say it's an inflection point. It's that one point in time where you make that decision and you just roll with it. With the marketplace business like this, when you think about, oh, there's like Airbnb for this, Uber for that. At the end of the day, it's all figuring out how you can monetize the excess capacity out there, right? So when you think about Bitcoin, for example, you don't really think about how you can use that for excess capacity, right? But with a coin like Ethereum, for example, where you're able to create apps on that blockchain specifically, then you're able to monetize things such as excess capacity around Wi-Fi. So let's say you're not at home, you're not using Wi-Fi, you can have other people paying you cents or dollars, right, for minutes that they decide to use your Wi-Fi. So there's a lot of different ways to do this, but think about when you're starting a business for the things that you're passionate about, where is there excess capacity? You think about all the parking lots out there or cars not being used at the moment. There's excess capacity everywhere and there's business opportunity everywhere. I don't think business is a zero-sum game. I just think there's abundance everywhere and there's just a chance as long as you want to put in the work for it. You want to build something great, you just keep putting your mind to it, and then eventually good things are going to happen. So you look at Jen's background. She's actually one of the first people I've talked to that comes from a big ad agency background, and you can see that actually helps a lot. When I look at her business, she has all the branding down. She thinks about copy. She thinks about how people are emotionally, and at the end of the day, when it comes to marketing and sales, you're just trying to tap into people's emotions and get them to take some kind of action. Also, at the same time, you're thinking about their needs too. So it's not always just, let's write a Facebook ad really quickly and let's see if people buy, but also thinking about from a human perspective, how you can get people to tap into their emotions and get them to take an action. Now, when it comes to learning marketing, this actually applies to Jen's ad agency background, is getting the book Breakthrough Advertising. So the book Breakthrough Advertising, it's really hard to get. It's not in print anymore, but you can actually find it on Amazon. I bought it for $100 or something like that. But if you search hard enough on the internet, you'll be able to find it. It's gonna help you write compelling copy. It's gonna help you think about marketing from even the old days, right? At the end of the day, not a lot has changed around marketing. You're still tapping into human psychology. So check out Breakthrough Advertising. It's one of my favorite books. It's something that I go to time and time again, and it's something that it's a must read for anybody on my team that has to do with copywriting. So those are just a couple of key takeaways, and you can see there's a lot of history too, right? When they move into a building where Airbnb was or where Heroku was, you can feel the history that's in a building like this, and you can feel the startup culture, just having people in the office. I've talked about in the past the difference between remote and having people in office. There's benefits to both, but I just like being able to see people being able to collaborate. I feel things are able to happen a lot faster. Jen talked about the concept of speed. I think it's really important to move quickly and being able to accept the fact that many mistakes are going to happen when you move quickly, and it's going to be really uncomfortable for people. And that also ties into hiring the right culture fits when it comes to growing your business. So those are just a few key takeaways from this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think, and if you have any tips, leave them in the questions or comments, and we will see you in the next video.
Wow, that was incredible. What a cool story. I love Jen, I love her story. And if you're a business owner, you're trying to level up your business, watch this episode again, or even better, go to the next episode in the playlist. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe, leave some comments, let us know what you thought. If you like this, if you were inspired and you want to go out and start your business, go for it. And we'll see you on the other side. Take care.